Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the next panel. Our next panel is going to be about the secrets of the football recruitment.
Bir sonraki
Here are our
panelimiz
guests are
oyuncu alımının
Mr.
sırları
Laurent Deschaux,
konusunda.
Chief Scout of Ammonia.
Sayın,
Please welcome.
Şimdi konuşmacılarımızı sahneye davet etmek istiyorum.
Marcelo Salazar, Football
Sayın
Executive
Marcelo
Director of El
Salazar.
Nasser. Ceyhun Kazancı, former Beşiktaş
Sayın
Sports Director.
Ceyhun Kazancı.
Nikola Inocentin,
Sayın
former
Nikola
Sports Director of
İlocente,
FAT.
FAT'nin eski spor direktörü.
And our moderator is
Ve moderatörümüz.
Sen burada mısın?
okay, so our moderator is
Ve
Tarkan
moderatörümüz
Batkün from
Sayın Tarkan
Comprehensive.
Batkün, Kompersatör'den.
I'm going to be moderating.
No problem.
Before I go, I would like to introduce
Sözü
you
bırakmadan
our
önce
young football players that they are coming.
genç futbolcularımız
1207 Antalya Spor Kulübü A takım
gelen
futbolcuları
aramızda
ve
olan
Antalya Deniz Spor Kulübü futbolcuları bugün bizimle beraberler. The stage is yours.
Welcome everybody,
Hoş
and
geldiniz.
it's been fantastic to see
Çok-
you guys.
Sizi
Four
aramızda görmek
aces
çok
from
güzel.
around the world, I
Dünya
should say.
genelinden
And
dört
firstly, I'd like
dünya
to
çapında
welcome
4 tane as oyuncu bizlerle
1207
beraber.
Antalya
Şimdi
Women's Team
1207
and Antalya Deniz Spor
Antalya,
Women's Team.
ve
Welcome again.
Antalya Deniz Spor kadın
Well,
oyuncularını
Nico, Ceyhun,
aramıza hoş
Laurent,
geldiniz
Marcelo,
diyorum.
all
Sevgili
experts in
Nikola, sevgili
player
Marcelo,
recruitment.
sevgili
I
Lohan,
mean, we're going to
hepiniz
be talking about the secrets,
sektörünüzde
but there are
lidersiniz.
some
Bu
qualities
işin
in each of
sırlarından
you
bahsedeceğiz ama
everyone knows.
hepinizin,
So it's not
herkesin
really a
bildiği
secret. So let
özellikleri
me
var.
just introduce you all. First, Nicola
Önce
Inocentin,
Nikola
my dear
Inocentin'i
friend for
takdim
more than 10
etmekle
years.
başlamak istiyorum.
And you
Kendisi
would all
10
remember
yıldan
him
uzun süredir benim
bringing
zaten
Roberto
dostum.
Mancini to
Roberto Mancini'yi
Galatasaray.
Galatasaray'a
Ceyhun
getirmesiyle
Kazancı, former,
tanıyabiliyorsunuz
Beşiktaş,
kendisini. Sayın Ceyhun
Sports
Kazancı,
director, but he has been
Beşiktaş'ın
in the
eski
football industry
spor
for God
direktörü
knows
ve
more than 20,
ama 17
17
yıldır
years.
zaten
And
futbol
Laurent
sektöründe.
Deschaux comes from French background,
Fransız
but
kendisi
from all around the
ama
world, from
tüm
Nottingham
dünyadan,
Forest to
Nottingham
now
Forest'tan
being a
şimdi
chief scout of
şu anda
Ammonia.
Ammonia'nın
And
baş scoutu.
Mr. Marcelo
Dünya
Salazar,
genelinde
originally
çalıştı.
from Brazil.
Marcelo Salazar da
now,
aslen Brezilyalı
he's
olmakla
the
birlikte
team
şu anda
executive of El Nasser.
El Nasser'ın
And what I'd like to do is
yöneticisi, takım yöneticisi.
learn your
Şimdi
secrets
sizin
first,
sırlarınızı
Ceyhun,
öğrenmek istiyorum
with regard
Sayın
to
Ceyhun,
player
Ceyhun
recruitment,
Bey.
because
Oyuncu
you made a lot of
alımında
teams, but
siz
you also
çünkü
had a
çok
background
takımda
in
çalıştınız
agency
ama sizin
far
de
back in time, long time ago.
menajerlik
So you've been in
geçmişiniz
both
var.
sides of the buying and
Dolayısıyla
selling business.
hem
So
satın
please
alma
let
hem
us
de
know about
satış
your experience
kısmında
in the last 17
çalışmışlığınız var.
years.
Son 17 yıldaki deneyimleriniz bizimle paylaşabilir misiniz? Evet, 17 yıl önce ben aslında bir futbol menajeri olarak bu işe başladım ve spor direktörü olarak da bu bana çok faydalı oldu. Çünkü sektörü içini dışını bilmek çok önemli. Tabii ki networking en önemli şeylerden bir tanesi ama bir kulüpte çalışırken oradaki kulübün kimliğini bilmek de çok elzem bir şey. Çünkü tahmin edebileceğiniz üzere her ülke, her sektör kendine has zorlukları var hepsinin. Türkiye'de mesela en büyük problem bütçe oluyor. Çünkü ben mesela Beşiktaş'ta çalışmaya başladığımda 2021 yılında 1 euro 10 liraydı. ayrıldığımda 2023'te ayrıldığımda ise 33 liraydı. Yani 1 euro 33 liraydı. Dolayısıyla tabii ki siz yabancı oyunculara euro üzerinden para ödüyorsunuz. Türk lirası kabul etmiyorlar çünkü stabilitesi yok kurun. Dolayısıyla en büyük zorlukların başında bu geliyor. Avrupa'da çalışıyorsunuz ama böyle bir sorun yaşamıyorsunuz. Bütçenizin ne olduğunu biliyorsunuz ama bir sezonun başında bir bütçeye karar veriyorsunuz, bütçeyi kararlaştırıyorsunuz. Sezonun sonunda o bütçe hiçbir zaman tutmuyor. En büyük Türk kulüplerinin önündeki en büyük problem bu. İkinci olarak tabii ki antrenörle uyumlu olmanız gerekiyor. Öncelikle kulübün ihtiyaçlarını tespit etmeniz gerekiyor. Sonrasında bütçenize göre de oyun ihtiyacınız olan oyunculara ve mevkilere odaklanıyorsunuz. Tabii ki bunun için belirli bazı yazılımlar kullanıyoruz oyuncu seçiminde. Sonrasında da pazarlıklara başlıyoruz. Ama ondan da önce özellikle Türk piyasası için bildiğiniz üzere önceden mesela hep deneyimli eski oyuncuları almaya çalışırdık. Özellikle mesela taraftarların bildiği oyuncuları almaya çalışırdık. Bence en büyük hatalardan bir tanesi bu Türk pazarındaki. Çünkü evet siz o oyuncu, belki siz oyuncunun son durağısınız. Ve dolayısıyla 33-34 yaşında buraya geldiğinde evet tamam büyük bir isim olmuştur ama sonucunu asla bilemezsiniz. Çünkü artık o oyuncunun hırs ve motivasyon seviyesini bilemezsiniz. İmzaladığınız anda her şey çok güzeldir. İşte siz büyük bir ismi mesela işte takıma getirmiş olarak kendinizi yaparsınız ama sezonun sonunda işler öyle olmuyor. Ben Beşiktaş'ta çalışırken mesela en çok ümit vadeden oyuncuları imzalamaya çalışıyordum. Bazı oyuncuları Gençlik Akademisi'nden alıyordum, altyapıdan getiriyordum ama bazı oyuncularda da bir planınız olması gerekiyor. Yani 2-3 yıl içinde bu oyuncu bana işte para kazandıracak diye planlayabiliyor olmanız lazım ama ne yazık ki Türkiye pazarında bunu yapmak mümkün olmuyor her zaman için. 2-3 yıl bu yani mesela dün gördünüz mü bilmiyorum Türkiye'deki 7 kulüp için transfer yasağı geldi. Bu 21 tane kulüp var zaten bu yasağı yiyen ve bunların 7 tanesi Türkiye'den. Hiç mantıklı değil. Yani burada yanlış yaptığımız bir şey var. Dolayısıyla spor direktörü olarak çok benim yapmak istediğim bir şey ama Beşiktaş'ın mesela 25 milyon taraftarı var. Onların da umurunda değil bu tarz şeyler. Kimsenin sabrı yok. Herkesi mutlu etmeniz gerekiyor. Oyunu hem oyuncuyu imzalarken hem o sezon boyunca hem de satarken. 5 milyona sattınız mesela kimse memnun olmuyor. 10 milyona satmanızı istiyorlar. Ama 3 milyonluk oyuncuyu imzaladığınız zaman çok pahalı diyorlar. Yani hem iyi isimler istiyorlar. Dolayısıyla ikisinin de böyle bir dengesini bulmak gerekiyor. Oyuncuyu gelmeye ikna etmek de bir mesele değil mi? Çünkü yarı fiyatına mesela Avrupa kulüplerinde oynamayı kabul ediyorlar ama Türkiye'ye veya Suudi Arabia'ya hatta Kıbrıs'a bile gidecekleri zaman çok astronomik fiyatlar isteyebiliyorlar, değil mi? Yani bizim şöyle bir avantajımız var. Biz bir maaş ya da bir gelir yaptığımız zaman bunun hep netini söylüyoruz. Avrupa'da ise bu hep brüt rakamlar oluyor ve ülkeye bağlı olarak ancak onun belki %45, %50 vergi ödemeleri gerekiyor. Ama Türkiye'de siz 1 milyon diyorsanız o net 1 milyon. vergiler hariç rakam veriyoruz. En büyük avantajımız o. Ama tabii ki kafalarında her zaman bir takım soru işaretleri oluyor. Ödemelerim düzenli yapılacak mı diye. Çünkü biz ne yazık ki gecikmelerle nam saldığımız için ödemeleri geciktirmekle nam saldığımız için bu konuda herkesin çekinceleri oluyor. Ama biz Beşiktaş olarak bütçemizi biliyoruz. Kime ne kadar ödeyeceğimizi biliyoruz. Onun için hep vaktinde ödüyoruz. Ama dediğim gibi yani spor direktörü olarak sizin bir dengeyi bulmanız gerekiyor. Herkesi her zaman mutlu edemezsiniz tabii ki. Ama bunun bir dengesini bulup ve günün sonunda eğer kazanıyorsanız başarılı oluyorsunuz. Kazanamıyorsanız başarılı duramıyorsunuz o pozisyonda. O anlamda stabil bir sektörde değiliz. Çok teşekkür ediyorum Ceyhun Bey. Şimdi sözü Nikola'ya vermek istiyorum. Niko da yine her iki madalyonun her iki tarafını da görmüş bir kişi. Şu anda FIFA diploması ve kulüp yönetim kursundan bir FIFA diploman var. Ve sanıyorum ki bu da en yüksek eğitim mertebesi. Niko, hep Frank Ribery ile Mancini ile hatırlıyoruz ama El Fatih'te ki orası tamamen farklı bir ortam. Ücretsiz oyuncuları neredeyse anında buldun ve Suudi Arabistan'da bayağı ciddi bir fark yarattın. Ve şimdi sözü sana vermek istiyorum. Çok teşekkür ediyorum sevgili Tarkan. Evet, Ceyhun'un yaptığı analize kesinlikle katılıyorum. Öncelikle içinde bulunduğunuz kulübün dinamiklerini anlamanız gerekiyor. Hangi ortamda bulunduğunuzu bilmeniz gerekiyor. Biz mesela Marcelo ile ben Suudi Arabistan'da mesela aynı ligdeydik ama iki farklı kulüpteydik. İki farklı dünya oluyor o zaman. Dolayısıyla yani nerede olduğunuzu, buradaki takımınızın hedefleri neler, bunları anında tespit etmeniz lazım ki planlarınızı ona göre yapın. El Fatih'te mesela benim bütçem kısıtlıydı ama biliyordum ki geçmişten bildiğim ama o kadar popüler olmamış ama ligde çok etki yaratabilecek oyuncular getirebileceğimi biliyorum.
That was actually the beginning, but not every time sporting director have the possibility
spor direktörünün her zaman
to choose the coach or to bring the coach because maybe you work in a club that the coach was already there.
Antrenör halihazırda zaten görevde bir antrenör olmuş olabiliyor. Ben şanslıydım. Antrenörü de benim bulmam gerekiyordu. Hiçbir şey imzalamadan önce antrenörü buldum. Çünkü antrenöre de saygı göstermenin bir göstermek gerekiyor. Ondan sonra antrenörü tespit ettikten sonra potansiyel oyuncuların üzerinden beraberce geçtik ve bizim için işe yarayacak olanları seçtik. Çünkü günün sonunda mesela oyuncu satın almayı bir puzzle olarak düşünün. Sadece sevdiğiniz parçayı koyamazsınız. O ihtiyacınız olan parçayı koymanız lazım. Başka durumlarda belki istemeyeceğiniz, almayacağınız oyuncu eğer bulunduğunuz ortama uygun olan oysa onu almanız lazım. Diyelim ki bir Rolex var, bir de Patek Philippe var. İki tane lüks saat. Şimdi siz onu parçalarını ayırsanız onun parçalarlarından üçüncü bir lüks saat yapamazsınız. Dolayısıyla ben de yani bu anlamda kendimi şanslı addediyorum. Çünkü önce koçu buldum, antrenörü buldum. Ondan sonra onunla birlikte sen başka bir kelime kullandın. Çok önemli. Dengeyi bulmak gerekiyor. Çünkü en üst marka kulüplerde bile Suudi Arabistan'da da mesela en pahalı oyuncular oyuncuları,
that
en
they want
üstteki
match
oyuncuları
together, even if
getirdiğinizde
they are top
diğer
players.
oyuncularla
So,
eşleşememe
I think,
riski de var bunun.
finding this balance,
Dolayısıyla bu dengeyi bulmak
it's the key.
gerçekten en
And
önemli
this
şey
is the starting
ve
point
zaten
to bring in a club
başlangıç noktamız bu
functional
olmalı.
players. Also because
Kulübün
another
işine yarayacak
point that you mentioned,
oyuncuları
in Saudi,
getirmek lazım. Şimdi
everyone
Suudi'de
comes getting a netto salary.
herkes
And it's
yine
a big net salary.
bir
But when
gelir
then you have
alarak
to
başlıyor.
sell those
Bu da çok
players,
ciddi bir
things
rakam
come
ama sonra
hard.
bunları satmaya
Because
iş
almost
satmaya
if a
geldiğinde
player
bu iş
from
zor.
Saudi got 4 million net,
Neredeyse
it will be
imkansız
almost
oluyor.
8
Şimdi
million
4
gross in
milyon
Europe. And when we are required to
nete
find a solution for those
almak
players, it's hard because the clubs in Europe
aldıysanız
will tell
sonra
guys, we don't have the money to pay the
Avrupa'daki
salary.
kulüplere bunları
Therefore, the
satamıyoruz
selection
çünkü
process
Avrupa'daki kulüplerde
is
böyle bir para
a
yok.
crucial part. For example, I remember transferring Denayer.
Evet, ben de Denayr'ı
And
transfer
now he's one of the
ettiğimizi
best center
hatırlıyorum.
backs.
Şimdi
How was that story?
Yeah, well, the story was
piyasadaki
that
en iyi
I think in our job, even if you are not working in this moment in a
şeylerden,
club, you should
stoperlerden
look an
bir
eye on the
tanesi.
market constantly, because this is the only
Evet.
way to remain
her
updated. And when you
daim
get a job,
gözünüzün
you are good to go.
açık olması
And
gerekiyor.
you have to diversify,
Çünkü
you know,
işin
the type
özü
of
bu.
players, you know,
Ve
that you're going to put in
oyuncularınızı
your
da aslında
own
mümkün
files.
olduğu kadar
Because,
çeşitlendirmeniz lazım.
if
Kendi
tomorrow,
dosyalarınızda,
inshallah, I will go in
potansiyel
a top Saudi
dosyalarınızda
club,
tuttuğunuz.
I know that I
Çünkü
have to
mesela
targeting certain players. But if I go
yarın
to
ben
a
şimdi
medium low club,
çok
you
üst
know, with
düzey bir
different
Suudi kulübe
target goals,
geçecek olsam
yes.
kimi
So,
hedefleyeceğimi
in the
biliyorum.
example you
Ya da
mentioned,
tam
Jason
tersi
Denayer
orta
is
ve
a player
alt
that I used to
liglerden bir
know
kulübe geçecek
before
olsam
as a
onlar için
profile.
de kimi
And
şey
I was
yapacağımı,
just
kime
waiting to know
bakacağımı
for the Saudi
biliyorum.
Pro League how much money I had. So because if you don't know your budget,
Bir de
it's
tabii
like if you
çünkü
try without
esas
having the coordinate
bütçenizi
of where you
bilmeden
have to go.
bunu
Once I know how
şey
much money
yapamazsınız.
I could rely on,
Belirleyemezsiniz.
and then
Önce
it
elimdeki
took
bütçeye
10
bakıyorum.
days to
Ondan sonra
identify,
bütçe belli
to
olduktan
narrow the
sonra
circle
benim
and say, okay,
o
those are the player I
şeyi
can aim for.
potansiyelleri
Jason was free
eleyip
transfer,
10
28
tane
years old,
mesela
you know,
ona
with a great
düşürmem
CV on the
10
past,
günümü
so
alıyor. Ondan
I
sonra da
told the board, I
bunu
think this is the player
yönetim
we
kuruluna
needed to
sunuyorum. İşte
improve.
şu oyuncuyu
And,
almamız
mentioning the
lazım
use of the
bence
data.
diyorum. Ama tabii
It's,
bunu
for me, is
verilerle
extremely important,
destekliyorum. Bu
you know,
benim için çok
but,
önemli.
you have to contextualize the data use.
Yani
Because sometimes,
savınızı
for example, the
verilerle
last data of
desteklemeniz
Jason
lazım. Mesela
weren't that
Jason'ın
amazing.
son verisi
But then you have to
çok
go
da
1
iyi
year back,
değildi
2 years
ama
back,
bir yıl,
you know,
2 yıl önceki
and try
verilerine
to envision if
baktığınızda
this player in a different
bu
environment, you know,
oyuncu
could
farklı
work.
bir ortamda
Because,
aynı
sometimes
performansı
you take a player
gösterebilir
that on
mi
the
diye
paper,
düşünmeniz
you know,
lazım. Sadece
is a
kağıtta
talent,
üstünde
and then you bring it to your team and it doesn't
kağıt
perform.
üstünde
And in my
bakamazsınız
opinion,
bir
someone who
oyuncuya.
is good
Kağıt üstünde çok
cannot,
yetenekli gibi
you know,
gözükür.
forget how to
Takıma
play football.
getirirsiniz, hiç aynı
in
performansı
few months
göstermez.
I mean, you're dealing with humans.
Çünkü sonuçta
And the human
insanlarla
behavior
çalışıyoruz değil mi? Ve
changes
insan
against the
davranışı
weather,
hava
against the
şartlarına
family
göre,
condition,
aile
against
şartlarına, ailenin
everything.
durumuna göre
Yeah,
her
money,
şeyden etkileniyor.
payment on
Paradan,
time. So there are a
ödemelerin
lot of
zamanında
different,
yapılmasından
equations to form,
birçok
and plus a
farklı
different
faktör
country.
var ve
From one
bulunduğu
country, for example,
ülkeye
a
de göre
Nordic
de değişiyor.
person comes to
Mesela bir
Saudi or Turkey
kuzey
or even,
ülkelerinden,
Cyprus.
Kuzey
So
Avrupa
very
ülkelerinden
different
bir
dynamics.
That part is
oyuncu
crucial. For example,
mesela
in the player
Akdeniz
acquisition,
ülkelerinden
what I
birine,
requested to the club,
Kıbrıs'a,
for
Suudi
example,
Arabistan'a
to the media house or
gelse,
marketing
güneydeki
department, I
ülkelere
asked them to
geldiğinde çok
prepare
farklı bir
3
ortam
different
değil mi?
presentation. One,
Evet,
it's
ben
made
3
for
tane
player and
farklı
family.
sunum hazırlıyorum.
Because they
Bir
need to
tanesi
know
oyuncuya
where
ve
they're coming,
ailesine.
you know,
Yani nereye
if there are
geldiklerini
international
bilmeleri
school,
gerekiyor.
hospital,
Uluslararası okullar
airport.
var mı?
Because,
Hastaneler
you
ne
know,
durumda?
with the player,
Havaalanı ne durumda?
normally there is a
Çünkü
family, there are
oyuncu
kids.
genellikle
And,
ailesi
the
oluyor.
player
Yani
is
çoluğu
looking to
çocuğu
the financial
oluyor.
part,
Ve
you know, the sport
finansal
project, but the wife doesn't care about that
spor
part.
projesi
Or better
kısmıyla
saying,
ilgileniyor
it's not the priority.
oyuncu.
For the
Ama
wife
karısı
is,
için
are there good
bunlar
school?
öncelikli
Is
değil.
there a
Karısı için
kindergarten?
öncelikli
You know,
olan
how
işte
is the health
kreş
system?
var mı?
And so on.
Okullar
So,
var
I
mı?
asked the club
Okullar
to
nasıl?
prepare a presentation
Bir işte
to pitch
sağlık
well,
sistemi
you know,
nasıl?
the
O
city,
yüzden
the
ben
club
kulüpten
in this way.
ilk önce
Then there is
böyle
the
bir
institutional
dosya hazırlatıyorum.
presentation, and then there is the
Sonra
marketing presentation. But that
kuruma
presentation
bizim
helped the sport
bulunduğumuz
director
kulübe bir
to convince someone
dosya
to come,
hazırlıyorum.
in this case,
Ondan
in
sonra
a
da bir
city,
pazarlama
Halassa, it was,
dosyası hazırlıyorum.
is not,
Mesela
Riyadh or
Halassa
Jeddah.
çok da bir
I
Riyad
remember when
veya
I spoke
Cidde
to
gibi,
Slaven Bilic, he
gibi
asked
bir
me, how
şehir
is
değil.
the city there? And my
şehir
answer was,
nasıl
well,
diye bana
Slaven, we
sorduklarında
have 2.5 million palms.
2,5 milyon
It's the biggest one. And he was laughing. He said,
palmiye ağacı var diyorum.
"You're
En
gonna
büyük
do the
nüfus
palm."
palmiye
But
ağaçlarından
I had to find,
oluşuyor
some
bizde.
value regarding
Küçük bir
the
şehiriz yani.
place.
Ama yani
Anyway, thank you, Nico.
bunları da
Welcome
anlatmak
back to you.
gerekiyor. Çok
Now,
teşekkür ediyorum Niko.
I will take all of you
Tekrardan hoş
to
geldin
another
diyorum.
part of
Şimdi
the world,
sizleri
which is
dünyanın
Cyprus,
başka bir
but Lauren Show
tarafı,
has a great experience coming from
bölgesine,
Nottingham
Kıbrıs'a
Forest to France,
götürmek
various
istiyorum.
different
Sevgili
clubs.
Laurent, sen Fransa'da da
And,
çalıştın,
now
Nottingham'da
in
da
Omonia,
çalıştın, şu anda da Amonya'da
well, each of
çalışıyorsun.
these places have different
Bunların
dynamics.
hepsinin tabii dinamikleri
And,
farklı bu yerlerin.
I would like to know personally
ben-
now what changed,
Sende
because from
neler
different
değişti?
dynamics, I'm
Onu
talking
kişisel
about two
olarak
major powerhouse of
iki
football,
önemli
then coming to
güç
down the south to
merkezinde
Cyprus.
bulundun. Çünkü
So what
futbolun
changed
sonra da
actually
Kıbrıs'a
in this
geldin.
player recruitment
Bu
and
anlamda
scouting
oyuncu
process?
alımı ve scouting işleri
Good morning,
konusunda,
everybody.
seçimi ve alımı konusunda ne gibi
I would
dinamikler,
like first
değişimleri
to put
yaşadın?
the focus on my
Çok
experience on
teşekkür
the
ediyorum.
French market because
Öncelikle
it's
Fransa
different than Saudi, for
pazarındaki
example.
tecrübelerimle başlamak
I had the
istiyorum. Çünkü bu
opportunity
Suudi
to
pazarından
stay 4
farklı.
years as a
Ben
sporting
4
director
yıl
in
orada
Grenoble in Ligue
spor
2,
direktörlüğü
which is one of
yaptım
the
ikinci
best
ligde
second
ki
league,
en
let's say, in
dünya
Europe.
Avrupa'daki en iyi
And
ikinci
the
liglerden
approach
bir
was totally
tanesidir
different
o.
than Saudi,
Ve oradaki
Cyprus,
yaklaşım tabii
Turkey,
Kıbrıs'tan,
Greece, that kind of
Türkiye'den,
countries.
Suudi Arabistan'dan
in France
oldukça
we have the
farklı.
know-how and the knowledge
Fransa'da
to
çünkü
develop young players,
genç oyuncuları
especially in second
geliştirme
league.
konusunda
This
özellikle
is
de
the main
ikinci
target.
ligde çok ciddi
Of
bir
course,
bilinç
I
var.
agree with
Ana
my
amaç bu,
colleague.
özellikle ikinci
You never
ligde.
play
Ve
the same style or you haven't got the same environment depending on the city,
ve
the club
şehire
where you are.
bulunduğunuz
It's,
kulübe,
again, the
bulunduğunuz
same,
şehre bağlı olarak oyuncular
analysis.
hiçbir
In the
zaman
same
aynı
league,
performansı
you don't play the
gösteremeyebiliyorlar
same,
ve hep
football
aynı
style in
performansı
Saint-Étienne, for example,
gösteremeyebiliyorlar.
than in Grenoble. But
Bir de
cities are very close.
Saint-Étienne ile
So
Grenoble'un
you have to
oyun
take care about the
stilleri de farklı.
environment, the
Birbirlerine
history
çok
of the
yakın
club,
şehirler
and of course the
olmalarına
strategy.
rağmen. Dolayısıyla
If I
hem
come back to
kulübünüzü
Grenoble,
hem stratejinizi
the
düşünmeniz
goal
lazım.
was
Grenoble'da
to
mesela
have balance
amaç
between experienced players,
deneyimli
also
oyuncularla
young players
genç
with high
oyuncuları,
potential to
yüksek
develop
potansiyele
and
sahip
to
genç
be a
oyuncuları geliştirmek
mix,
ve
a
bunu
combination
bir
in
kombinasyonuyla
order to be able to
dengelemekti.
sell these
Ki
players
bu oyuncuları
to
işte
the other
gelecekte
countries.
diğer
We have the
ülkelere
chance, for example, in France, to
satabilelim
be
diye.
scouted by
Mesela,
many clubs from Germany, from
Fransa'da
Italy,
mesela
from
İtalya'dan,
England, and
Almanya'dan,
many clubs.
İngiltere'den birçok
So the
kulübün
goal was to develop young players
oyuncu
and to be able to sell them
seçim
in the
scout
future.
seçimler
So that's
için oyuncu
maybe the difference with Saudi
seçimleri için
and,
scoutlar
Turkey or
geliyor.
Greece,
Şimdi
even Cyprus,
Türkiye'de
because the
veya
expectations
Yunanistan'da ve
in those
hatta
countries are to be
Kıbrıs'ta
performant
burada nasıl
at short
daha
term
fazla
to get results,
performans
and this is
sergileyebilirim
tomorrow.
hedefi
Yes,
var.
and it's
Yoksa
another
işinizi
approach,
kaybediyorsunuz.
you know, so,
Buradaki yaklaşım
it
daha
was very
farklı.
interesting
Kısa
for me
sürede
to,
yüksek performans
again, to work
peşinde
in the League
buradaki
Two because,
kulüpler.
maybe it was my
Liglerin de
best
tabii
experience
birbirinden farkı
in my
var.
career.
Benim
I had the
kariyerimdeki
opportunity
en
to
iyi deneyim
put the
aslında
focus on youth development again, but
bu
not
Fransa'daki
to take
ikinci
care
ligde
so much
çalışmaktı.
about the
Çünkü o
financial
noktada
aspect.
işin
Because
finans
when
kısmını
you
çok umursamıyorsunuz.
try to convince
Daha
a
ziyade
player to come in
gençlerin
the second
yetişmesine
league
ve
in France,
gelişmesine
first they want to
odaklanıyorsunuz.
know the project.
Fransa'da
They want to
insanlar
know
sizden
what is the plan
projeniz
for the
nedir?
next step.
Önümüzdeki
Because for them it's a
yıllar
step.
için planlarınız nedir? Bunu
So
öğrenmek
you build
istiyorlar daha
In a
ziyade.
certain way their career.
Dolayısıyla aslında
them.
bu
It's
çocukların,
like,
bu gençlerin
combination.
kariyerini
I give you
inşa
an example.
ediyorsunuz. Bir örnek
Florian
vereyim size.
Sotoka
Florian
was in
Sotoka
Grenoble
mesela
5 years ago.
Grenoble'daydı
We
5 yıl
sold him
önce.
to Lens
Ondan sonra
in
onu Lens'a
2019,
sattık
and this
2019'da.
season he was playing in the
ve
Champions League group.
Şampiyonlar
He
Ligi'nde
played against
oynadı.
Arsenal. They
Arsenal'e
won Arsenal
karşı
at home.
ve kazandılar
So,
da kendi
in a certain way,
evlerinde.
I was a part
Dolayısıyla
of his
bir
success,
nevi bunun
bringing him
başarısının bir
in
parçası
Grenoble,
oldum ben.
developing his skills, his
Başarı,
abilities,
becerilerini,
and giving him the
yeteneklerini
chance
geliştirme
to
konusunda
progress, to
onu
improve, and
önünü
to be now in
açtım
a top
ve
club in the
artık
League One.
birinci ligin
So,
en üst
that's
düzey
the,
kulüplerinden bir tanesinde
the
oynama
fact that we
şansına
can be
kavuştu.
proud,
Bundan da çok büyük gurur
and
duyuyorum.
Finance is out of the
Bu
picture in
noktada
that
artık
case.
finansı
So
mesela
that's another
düşünmüyoruz.
approach.
Bu da başka
Well,
bir yaklaşım.
I'm also wondering because the Cypriot teams recently in the last 5-6 years amazing successes, we are often actually seeing them in UEFA competitions.
Yeah.
And how did this actually develop for Cyprus?
Okay,
So what were their strategies? Because, I mean, the passion in football, Greece, Turkey, Italy, Cyprus, almost same pressures. Winning it tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know, less patience from the management, a lot of changing coaches. However, personally, I can see this Cypriot people adapted this and the team's progressing.
Yeah, that's true. The last 2-3 years, Cyprus market increased a lot in terms of competition standard. I think it's due to the financial investment from foreign funds. You have a lot of Russian, for example, in Pafos FC, Aris Limassol.
You worked at both clubs.
Who played, and Aris played this season in Europa League, which was a fantastic result for them and performance. Last season, AEK Larnaca played a very good competition in Conference League. They reached the quarterfinal against West Ham. But it's mainly due to the fact that many foreign investors take care about the clubs. They invest a lot of money, but for sure it's the same approach than Turkey or Greece. They need short-term results. They invest on experienced players with high value, and they try to find the right chemistry with young local talents. But again, it's far from what we are doing in Spain or in France or in Belgium, because it's totally different strategy. So we come back to the fact that first the strategy and your playing philosophy are the main points to build your team. But Cyprus has good result and increased the performance each season due to the investment.
Thank you, Lauren. Now, another colorful personality all the way from Brazil to Middle East Peninsula. And my first question is going to be the adaptation process from Brazil perspective to changing to another continent, because right now you being in the UEFA Elite Scouting Program, and this is the top educational level, and learning process simply never ends. So as we spoke with Nico, so Nico in Saudi and El Nasser, I think it's two different ball games, because being in El Nasser, a lot more pressure, and as you know, the international transfers, etc., etc. So first, coming from Brazil to the peninsula, with all your knowings, all your experience, and meeting with this new culture, and integrating your knowledge plus the new educational system. So where are you from that point to the current El Nasser project? Because it's a fairly interesting project all over the world, all the attention from the world. So let us know your fantastic voyage.
Thank you, Tarkan. Good morning for everybody. I think all of us, we said one word here, that's context. This is one of the most important words. If you work everywhere, get to know your context. So the Al Nasser context is one, Cyprus, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, same country, same league, different city. And I have been before in Al Faisali in Saudi, which is completely different context, even a smaller city than Al Hassa, for example. So we have to get this into account when selecting players and recruiting talents to your club. You have to see what's the background of that player. For example, where I used to live before in Al Harma, it's a 5,000 city. Let's say I cannot even call it a city because it's like a village. And our president, once he wants to sign one guy, he played for Inter Milan. And he has 3 kids. That president, it doesn't work. doesn't work. One guy that he was in Milan, his wife, he was in Milan, his kids, they will not come here. And they have been all the way together. So either they will be separated and his concentration will not be here, either he will be fed up if he bring his family here. So I have been living abroad, as you mentioned. I left Brazil in 2001. So I already passed in Belgium, in Spain, in 3 different cities, in Kuwait, now in Saudi, 2 different cities. So I think the key is the willingness, first of all, to adapt. Because if you accept a challenge, at the end, you have to say, okay, why I accept this challenge? So I'm going there with a good mentality to understand that anywhere in the world, either in Brazil, in Europe, in Middle East, West Asia, USA, you have good things, you have bad things. You have depressed people that lives in front of the sea, and you have happy people who lives in the favelas in Brazil, and they barely have water to drink. So it's not focus on the place, but focus on yourself. And okay, I have a mission, I have something that I want to achieve, and if to achieve this goal, I have to pass somehow some difficulties. But if you have this willingness to adapt, things will be much easier. So the secret, if I have to summarize, context and adaptation. You have to be very careful with these 2 things before taking any decision. Kind of studying where you are, what are the goals, and then you take decision.
Nico, well, obviously we're talking about the secrets of player recruitment. How was your, because coming from Italy, you being a player also in the MLS days and played in Germany, very different places, and with your experience in the last experience in Al Fateh, how was this data-driven approach that I know, how did you implement your ideas to Al Fateh? And how were you able to speak the same data language in the club?
Yes, that's a good question, because when you have to interact with the decision maker, in the club, so the board or the president, depend who is the one that gives the final words, you have to try to let him understand your ideas. So why you would like to bring this player and not that player. Okay, so as I said before, for one particular player that at the end I brought to Al Fateh, Jason Denier, the data itself, of the previous year were not that amazing. But if you knew the profile, from the past, then you can challenging your board and the president say, guys, I think this is what we need, And for example, when some data doesn't help you, even though they reflect the reality of the previous year, then you have to call your network. For example, without hiding anything, I make a couple of phone calls, put the loudspeaker with sporting director where this guy was previously, coaches who coached these guys previously, Belgian national team medical department, because they wanted to be sure that they didn't, had bad injuries. So also, those are data. Information are data, okay? So data are not just the numbers, okay? Data can be hidden story about the player. For example, nowadays everyone is in the social media, and also an information and a tip for the ladies of the team that are present here today. Take care about your social page, because clubs are looking at that, Social page speak about you. I remember I had a meeting with Manchester United in the past about 2 big players, I cannot disclose the name, but 2 different profiles, and the social media were clearly showing that those players, both great, were totally different. So those information are important. There are clubs that hire psychologists to analyze the social pages. So back to your question. I try to, that's also depend of the level of the person you're talking to in terms of knowledge. If your president or the board doesn't have a certain knowledge, I cannot bring to them graphics that they will not understand. I have to summarize the information. Therefore, it is important for me while organizing a club to have each person in his own role capable to bring you the information needed to be reported to the final person that has to listen to the information. Because, for example, a data analyst, if he talks directly to the president or the board, sometimes will create confusion because he has elements that those people cannot understand. So either you instruct the data analyst how to speak to the main management, or you create a communication with the data analyst, and together with him, you create the way to communicate to the main management. And this is the way how you can explain better your idea. And I think also ideas need to be explained, because this is what gives you the strength as executive to explain why you choose one player. Of course, you have to take your responsibility, because we don't have the magic ball. So sometimes you bring player again that will not work as expected. But this is why our role is much more than just watch a game and look to the data. When you have to bring a player, you have to see the whole context. Marcelo before mentioned something very important. If you bring a player, the family is not there, or if you bring a player like the other player I brought to Alaza, he had a special needs due to his family situation, and they need to consider that. So my first priority became to fix that problem even before he ended up to the club. Because I remember the first match he played, just to give you a visual image for that, he came into the pitch, and the first things he did, he was watching on the stand to see if his family was there. He was not thinking about, actually, it was the match against us, you know? So when I saw him, I was like, hey, wait a minute, why is looking in the stands, and until he doesn't see and find the family, he's not ready to play. Wow, guys, this is something important. So that part must be fixed as soon as possible. Then the player is ready to go.
Great, Nico. Now my second question to Jehan. Well, it's a common problem anyway. Sports directors or chief scouts receive offers from agencies. Presidents receive, or board members receive offers. And coach receives offers. Assistant coach receives offers. And the combination of all is a big, huge, massive difficulty, especially in the Turkish league, right? So how did you manage this coordination at the time of Beşiktaş?
Well,
Is this such a difficult?
Sure, it is. It, of course, depends on the club, but I was a bit lucky about this, because I was the only contact point for all the agents. Even if an agent make an offer to president or to the coach or to the assistant coach, etc., they were all sending me all the offers, and I was the only one, or my team was the only contact people speaking with the agents. So I was a bit lucky. But you're right, especially other clubs in Turkey, I hear and I know about this. Most of the presidents, they try to make the deals directly. They don't have any idea about the market, about the quality of the player. But at the end of the day, as Nico said, first of all, you need to convince the president, the decision maker, about your ideas. Once he is convinced that you are the guy who will make this deal in a proper way, then he will also orient you all the offers coming to him. So as I said, I was a bit lucky in Beşiktaş about this, because the president had full confidence on me, and he was always giving my contact details to every single agent, trying to make the deal through him. Even if sometimes, of course, agents cannot find a solution with you, so they go directly to the decision maker. So this is a the way that we all experienced, I'm sure. But I was lucky, as I said. I mean, he was always telling, no, Ceyhun is the guy, so you have to do this through him. So that helped me a lot. So I could put my ideas on every single deal easily. And as I said, harmony with the coach is the most important thing.
Well, how did you deal with the coach? Because sometimes the president, scouting team, sports director always agreeing one thing, but the coach is speaking another language.
Yeah, sure. Very important that he is convinced, because at the end of the day, he will let him play. And can be fully convinced about the player, but if the coach says no, I never signed this player, to be honest, because he will not let him play. And at the end of the day, you are the responsible guy, and all the fans will blame you, or even president will blame you. And once they start not to play, then the player will also lose his confidence, etc. And
He will reflect on you in the end.
yeah, it's not the ideal situation, actually. But before, you need to have an agreement with the coach about the needs. First, about the positions, then about the styles of the players that you are looking for. Okay, you might be looking for a number 9, but there are different types of number 9s. So you need to, first of all, get an agreement with the coach about all the details. Afterwards, of course, it's your job to deal with the budget, salaries, everything. For example, when we signed many players from Premier League 2 years ago, my idea was that, my observation was that in Turkish league, intensity is lacking. But the league is not as intense as Europe, top 5 leagues. So in order to compete with European teams, first of all, we need to increase the level of the intensity on the pitch. That's why we signed many players from Premier League. But that was also the idea of the coach. So we had total agreement with him. Afterwards, it was really easy for me to close the deals, everything, because he was also helping me while convincing the players, by the way. This is also a very important point. If you don't have an agreement with the coach, you will not have a meeting altogether, but sometimes, okay, player asks some questions about life, about salary, everything, but about the plans of the coach also, I'm sure he has some ideas, some questions. And if the coach explains him about all the details on the pitch, about how he will use him as a key player, then easily you can convince the player. So total harmony is the key point, I guess. Decision makers, coach, sporting directors, they all have to be on the same page so that you can create a good story. That's the key point.
Now I'll come back to Laurent, because I still want to explore, because England to France to Cyprus. So for example, as a chief scout or a sports director, how was this harmony established in France versus Cyprus? Because Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, more of a president, you know, the last decision even before the coach. So how is it like in France to Cyprus?
Yeah, it's different. Again, it's different, I think, of culture. In France, the sporting director take the responsibility to define the sports policy, to define also a process, how to work, how to build your scouting department, how to build the team, what kind of playing philosophy you are going to set up with your coach. And the president never interferes, really. You take the responsibility and you are judged at the end of the season. If you have results, everything is perfect. When you go to countries like Greece, because I was also in Aris Thessaloniki, and it was a fantastic example. I like a lot President Karipidis, but he's typically the president who wants to make the team, to take care about the marketing, take care about the business, to be sometimes the coach, to sit on the bench in the game. So you have to adapt yourself to that kind of environment, but for sure it's totally different than France. It's another culture, another planet even. And yes, I think we come back again to the same context. That means, for example, in Spain, in France, in Belgium, you have time to develop a project, generally for 2-3 seasons. So we are on a medium-term goal. In those countries, Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, I think so, you need to have short result, and the president wants to show also to the fans, to the environment, that the project is strong, they're able to win fast, to get strong performance. So you see, it's a totally different approach. And we have to adapt ourselves as a chief scout or sporting director to that kind of environment. And as said Marcelo, our job is to be adaptable. And when you have success in different countries, that means you are capable to be flexible and to manage different culture, approach, and also ego, because there is a part of ego to manage.
Now, Marcelo, as you know, Saudi League, I mean, this is my personal opinion, achieved a fantastic job, my opinion, bringing all those players very famous. But the fame also brings other handicaps. So many famous players in one team, you recruited. The recruitment process is by itself to convince the player, give them the opportunities from their children's schools to the city to the apartment. How did it all happen, for example, in El Nasser? Because you're the team executive, I believe that your relationship with these individual players are such important to reflect on the performance, right? So how was your obstacles or advantages in this fame of the players?
I think the perception that the world of football has towards Saudi Arabia, once there was the big move in January, beginning of the year, Cristiano Ronaldo decided to join our club, changed the perception of, okay, if this guy, he's living there, his family is living there, his kids, they are studying there, it means, and he's showing everywhere that he's happy. So it's not one person work, it's a teamwork. So, and then Nico, he said very well, sometimes not who you like, but it's who you need to make the puzzle. And it's very complex, because you are talking about human beings. So you are talking about human beings, you are talking about 30 young guys, you are talking about one foreign staff, you are talking about local staff, you are talking about presidency, you're talking about now the PIF who bought our club, and they come with a lot of governance, which is good for the football, but creates some attracts, some clashes at the beginning. So again, I come back to adaptability and to be smart, to understand your context, and small talks with everybody, because sometimes you have to treat the team as if you are a coach, you treat your team. Everybody has his own task, but it has to be clear for everybody. Okay, Marcelo, what is your role? Is it clear for you? Yes. Okay, the kit man. So now you have these stars, but this is not the behavior that you are expecting from you. So they have their, we are in another level. So it requires people to adapt and realize that, okay, it's not like this used to be, and it was already professional. I'm not saying that before it was zero and now, no. There was Saudi football long time, as we spoke yesterday. The Saudi football, there is the passion, there is the professionalism. There are big players since long time ago coming to play there. Now it's a different level. So we have to be smart to understand that from now onwards, things will work differently, and make everybody understand the message. And when you see that, okay, old behaviors, teach because this builds a new culture, build new behaviors that will lead at the end to maintain the level of professionalism that, as you said, the Saudi football achieved today, and keep growing, because it will not stop now. Of course, I think it will be difficult to have another transfer window as impactful as it was in last summer, but now, as I say, the gate is open. Now we have players from La Liga, they're willing to come. You have players from Premier League, they're willing to come. You have players from Bundesliga, they are willing to come. So now, like broke a barrier. Also, it gives you worldwide, because before my previous experience with Al Faisali, for some leagues we don't target those leagues, because I know it's difficult to approach one guy from Arsenal, from Manchester City, yeah, come to play in Saudi Arabia. It would be difficult. But now this barrier is broken. Oh, how many players from Liverpool that are playing now in Saudi? You have Fabinho, you have Sadio Mane, you have many of players. And for the future now it's open, but in both ways. It means a player that Gabri Veiga, for example, he came to Al Ahly, the young guy, and everybody was surprised. I don't think Gabri Veiga, he will end his career in Saudi. It means there is a movement back. And then it's a challenge, as Nico said at the beginning, and I'm there since 2018, and it's really difficult when you sign somebody and it doesn't fit to find another place to him. You will lose money, because as everybody knows, that the salaries and no tax makes that it's almost impossible to find a solution. So it means you have to be a little bit more concerned about it to minimize really the possibility. But again, we are talking about human beings, and we are not magicians that will choose. Things happen wrong, and in my opinion, as soon as you identify where is the mistake, solve it. And then you keep growing and you keep adjusting the team to give what you want for them, which is good performance.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Çok
Again,
teşekkür ediyorum Marcelo.
I would like to thank you for coming from all
Sizleri
around the world,
aslında tüm
from far
dünya
places.
çapından,
Firstly,
dünyanın
again,
dört bir
I'd like
yerinden
to
geldiğiniz
thank
için
to
teşekkür etmek istiyorum.
1207 Antalya team
1207
and
Antalya
Antalya
ekibine ve
Deniz Spor.
Antalya Deniz Spor
Welcome
ekiplerine de
to our
hoş
event,
geldiniz
and
demek istiyorum
hopefully you all
etkinliğimize. Umuyorum ki
like what we said. And
konuştuklarımız
we would
ilginizi
again like to
çekmiştir.
thank Behiç Kaya and
Behiç
Ayhan
ve
to
Ayhan Bey'e
make
de
this fantastic
bu
event.
harika organizasyonu
But
düzenledikleri
claps
için
for the
ayrıca
women
teşekkür
and all
ediyorum.
together.
Özellikle kadın
Thank you very much.
sporcularımızı da alkışlamak istiyorum.
Thank you.
Darkan, sorry. May I add something at
Bir
the
şey
end?
Yes,
Because
eklemek
we have the
istiyorum
opportunity to
sevgili
have a young
Tarkan.
player
Çünkü
today with
burada
us.
aramızda genç oyuncular
Because
var
we are talking about secrets,
ve
you know, so
sırlardan
maybe
bahsettik.
they want to know what
Belki
does it take to
onlar
go
da
to the next level,
bir
you know,
üst
what does it
kademeye
take to
çıkmak
be
için
picked,
ne yapmaları
scouted.
gerektiğini, seçilmek
And
için ne yapmaları
I
gerektiğini
think that while
bilmek
executives, you know,
isteyebilirler.
need to adapt
Bir
to the
yönetici
club
olarak
we are
biz
going to work for,
çalışacağımız
the opposite.
kulübe
In
adapte
which way?
olmamız
They should not
gerekirken
you know?
sizin,
Because,
siz yani genç
you
oyuncuların
girls in
sizin
this case,
adapte olmaması
you have to
gerekiyor. Tam
train
tersi.
not
Çünkü siz
according to the club or the league where you are
kulübe
playing today.
veya
You have to
oynadığınız
train
lige göre
according to the
değil,
club where you aim to
olmak
end up to.
istediğiniz,
Okay? So if your dream is to
gelecekte
become a pro player and
parçası
end up to
olmak
play in a big
istediğiniz
team,
kulübe
always
ve
think
lige
about
göre
that when you go
oynamalısınız.
on the
Yani
training fields. Because
İdman
when we are going
sahasına
to
her
scout players,
çıktığınızda onu
sometimes
düşünmeniz
or
gerekiyor.
every times
Mevcut
actually we
koşullarınızı
don't
değil,
see when
olmak
it comes
istediğiniz
about young
koşulları
players. We
düşünmeniz
don't look at
gerekiyor.
what the
Çünkü
player
biz
is
scoutlar
now.
olarak
We are
oyuncunun
looking about
şimdiki
the potential.
haline değil,
We are looking about
potansiyeline
how this
bakarız.
player
Yani
can
bu
adapt
oyuncu
if he goes on a higher
şu
level. And this is
kademeye
something very
geldiğinde,
important.
şu
Because
seviyeye
sometimes
geldiğinde
you are good
adapte olabilir
in
mi?
that
Şu
club and in
takıma
that league.
çıkarsa o
But the
lige
people that come to
çıkarsa
evaluate
adapte
you
olabilir
has
mi?
to
Bunu
evaluate
düşünebiliriz.
your coachability.
Yani
It means
siz
if you can
bu
be a
çocuk
player that
antrenör
a top coach can
eğitilebilir
train
mi?
to improve you more, you know.
Üst düzey
So
bir
keep
antrenör
in mind
bu
that
çocuğu
when you go on the
geliştirebilir
training
mi?
field, because this is
Bunu
a
düşünürüz
little
biz
secret,
bakarken.
you know,
İşte
that we
size
can reveal
küçük
to
bir
you
sır.
as executive,
Siz
as a people that scout player around the world,
oyuncuları
that it's very
seçerken
important.
neye bakılıyor
A player that can
dediğinde
show that
diye
would have
düşünecek
much more
olursanız
chance
işte
to
buna
be chosen
bakılıyor.
than other that are
Yani
just good in that particular moment.
o
Thank you
anda
for that.
iyi olan bir oyuncu ya
Thank you for all
kıyasla
coming.
gelecek vaat eden bir
And we
oyuncu
want to
daha
take
fazla
questions
tercih
in this
edilir.
session.
Evet, soru
you,
alamayacağız
thank
bu
you.
oturum için.
Thank
Çok
you very
teşekkür
much.
ediyorum hepinize.
And our next, we took the photos before, or will take it again because we still have time.
Fotoğraf çektirmiştik öncesinde ama vaktimiz varsa bir daha çekilebiliriz.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot to Laurent Deschaux,
Teşekkür
Marcelo
ederiz.
Salazar,
Sevgili
Ceyhun
Laurent,
Kazancı,
Marcelo,
Nicola
Ceyhun Kazancı,
Innocentin,
Nicola
and
Innocentin
Tarkan
ve
Batgün.
Tarkan Batgün.
Please join us in 15 minutes
15
for our
dakika
next
sonra
panel.
bir
Let's
sonraki
have some
panelimizi,
coffee and let's have some chat all together.
başlayacağız.
Genç futbolcu arkadaşlarımı da burada insanlarla tanışmaya, sohbet etmeye davet ediyorum. Sizler de lütfen kahve arasında bizlerle bol bol sohbet edin. See you in 15 minutes.